Alright guys, I am back yet again with another deck profile from Cardfight Vanguard Dear Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Brandt Gate Orfist Regis deck. So of course version 1 is everything through the first additional card pass, so through the booster set 7. And this is the second different Orfist build that I have made. This one focused on his newer form, Orfist Regis, which is definitely a much more powerful boss unit for the deck. But this deck does still focus on getting the world set orders into your order zone and superior calling Shadow Army tokens, this time during the battle phase in order to give you multi-attack. So as always, we will be going through the deck, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with our ride deck, as always, we have our grade 0 starter, which is Cardinal Fang Fovi. So when it's rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Standard D-Series starter skill. Next up, for the grade 1, we have Cardinal Noid Routus. So his auto ability, when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you can search your deck for up to one world card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your deck. So very simple skill, but very useful. Just a free +1 to your hand, letting you search out one of your world cards, which is very important since we do need to get those into our hand and into our order zone. And then of course he also has his continuous ability on Rearguard Circle that says during the battle this unit attacked or boosted. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power +2000. So that ability never really comes into play because he never ends up on Rearguard Circle. So next up for our grade 2, we have Cardinal Noid Cubicia. So his auto ability says when a world is put into your order zone, you can choose one of your units and it gets power +5000 until end of turn. So again, very basic skill, just gives 5000 power to one of your units on turn 2, when it should be the turn you play your first order card. And then again, he has a continuous ability that is only active on Rearguard that gives him 5000 power if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight. That again does not come into play since he never ends up on Rearguard Circle really. So then lastly for our grade 3, we have Cardinal Dominus Orfist Regis. So his auto ability says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle, you can choose up to one world card from your hand or drop and put it into your order zone. So very useful ability, giving you another world order into your order zone. Obviously you want to put one from your drop if you have one in the drop, since that gives you a +1 without using up any cards from your hand. This ability also lets you bypass any play cost that card would have as well, since you're just putting it directly into your order zone. So that's helpful on saving resources as well. And then he has his second auto ability that says when this unit attacks, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can counterblast one and discard a card from your hand. And for every 2 world cards in your order zone, you can call up to one Shadow Army token to Rearguard Circle, and this unit gets power +5000 until end of that battle. So again, as always, you can't see token cards when you're outside of a fight, so I'll throw up a screenshot for the Shadow Army tokens, which are just vanilla 15k grade 1 units. But this card lets you superior call Shadow Army tokens during your battle phase, so it does allow you to get extra attacks, while also powering up itself. Now, how many Shadow Army tokens you get to call depends on how many worlds you have in your order zone, which on turn 3, at most, you're going to end up with 3, since there is no grade 1 world order. So you can play 1 on turn 2 naturally, 1 on turn 3 naturally, and then the 1 you put into order zone with his on-place skill. So you're only going to have 3 on that turn at most, which means you can only call up to 1 Shadow Army token during your battle phase. However, we do have another card that when it's called over, you can potentially call another one as well. So if you combo it with that other card, you can still potentially get 5 attacks on turn 3. Otherwise, you could at least still get 4. And then from turn 4 onwards, you should have at least 4 world orders set up between playing them from your hand or persona riding and grabbing another from your drop. So from turn 4 onward, definitely you should at least be able to call 2 Shadow Army tokens off of this skill. So very, very powerful skill, giving you potentially up to 5 attacks with just this unit. So that is our ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the Grade 3s, we do have our 3 additional copies of Orfist Regis, SP, of course, which are just here for the Persona ride. So next for the Grade 3s, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Dragon Nuvarea. So his auto ability, when this unit attacks, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of that battle for each world in your order zone. So simple power-up skill that does get stronger the more worlds you end up getting, so it tends to snowball later and later in the game. Then he has his second auto ability, which is the main reason we're running him, which says, when this unit is retired from Rearguard Circle, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you may call a Shadow Army token to Rearguard Circle. So this is the card I just mentioned that does combo well with Orfist Regis and lets you call extra Shadow Army tokens during the battle phase. So during turn 3, if you call your 1 Shadow Army token off of Regis' skill on top of him, it'll trigger his ability, which will let you call another one. So that will give you your 5th attack on turn 3, letting you fill up your front row with Shadow Army tokens. Otherwise, if you can already do that off of Orfist Regis alone, or if they just checked into some damage triggers and your tokens won't be able to hit unboosted, you can always just call one to the back row as well in order to power up your units and let them just boost. So either way, a very vital card for the deck. So then lastly, for the Grade 3s, we have 3 copies of our first world set order, which is Overcoming an Eternity. So you can play this with a Soul Blast 2. And then it has its continuous ability, which all world orders have, that says if your order zone only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. If you have 1 card, your world becomes Dark Knight, and if you have 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So changing your world to Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight doesn't do anything in and of itself, it's just a status, but it does turn on all these other skills that require your world to be either one of those things. So then it also has its auto ability that says when your Shadow Army token is placed, that placed unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So very useful card in just powering up all your Shadow Army tokens that you call for that one turn, which you should be calling new ones every turn, so they'll all get powered up. Also, this ability does stack, so if you get multiple copies of this card into your order zone, any of your Shadow Army tokens will get plus 5k for each copy you have. So that can potentially snowball as well, powering up your units further and further. So that's all of our Grade 3s. Moving on to the Grade 2s. First off, we have 2 copies of Cardinal Draco Kuljamid. So his continuous ability says if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets boost and can intercept from the back row. And then he also has another continuous ability when he's on Guardian Circle that says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets shield plus 10,000. So this card can essentially be a 10k booster, and then you can intercept with it from the back row and it can become a 15k shield. So this card can be useful in terms of both offense and defense. I generally like putting it behind my Vanguard since that can hit a magic number with a 10k booster behind it. And then you're not losing out on any shield value either since you still have that intercept option. So next, I'm running 1 copy of Cardinal Draco Destigade. So his continuous ability, if your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2,000. And if it is Abyssal Dark Knight instead of Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5,000. So again, basic power-up skill. And then he has his auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can retire 3 Shadow Army tokens and stay in this unit. So This card's a bit of a spicy tech in Orfist Regis, because generally you don't need the restand off of him, since you're going to be getting the extra attacks from Regis, just calling more tokens. However, there is one very particular play you can do with this card, and it requires a little bit of a specific setup. If you have 3 Shadow Army tokens already out on your board before your battle phase, and then you have the ability to call at least 3 more during your battle phase, this auto ability is not once per turn. So you could potentially restand Destajade twice off of this skill, and end up getting 6 attacks actually in one turn. So it's a little specific to be able to pull off, but if you have your 3 tokens out on your board, what you do is basically just attack with your other front row rear guard that's not Destajade. Then attack with Destajade, retire the 3 tokens, restand him, attack with Regis, call your 3 new tokens, one of which to the front row over top of your other rear guard. Then you can attack with it, then attack with Destajade again, and once again retire the 3 tokens and stand him again. So that will give you your 6 attacks. How often you get to pull that off is kind of up in the air. I kind of just threw this in for the hell of it, since if you do manage to pull off that combo, it's pretty funny. If you don't want to try to go for that high roll to get the 6th attack, you can just replace this with like another World Order or whatever really you want to run. But I just put it in for the hell of it. So next up we have 2 copies of Aiding Monster Tech 10. So its auto ability, when this card is discarded from your hand during your turn, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 set order from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So this ability will activate if you discard it during your ride phase, or if you discard it off of Orfist Regis' skill as well. And in either situation, you get to dig for another World Order out of the top 5 off of your deck, which if you find one, you can potentially mitigate that minus entirely. So just a useful card in helping you maintain your card advantage. So next up, we have another one of our World Orders, 3 copies, of Hallowing Moonlit Night. So you can play this with a Soul Blast 1, and then it's got its auto ability that says when this card is put into Ordered Zone, you can draw a card. So just a simple cycling ability, which will activate if you put it into Ordered Zone from your hand or from your drop off of Regis' skill. And then again, it has that same continuous ability that just changes your world to Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight. So, pretty simple card. This is usually the one I play on turn 2 to get the early card advantage. But yeah, extra draw power, always a good thing. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we have our last World Order, which is 2 copies of Eclipsed Moonlight. So you can play this one with a Counterblast 1. And its auto ability says when this card is put into the Order Zone, you can call a Shadow Army token to your rearguard circle. And of course, again, it has that same continuous ability that just changes your world. So again, very simple ability, just gives you a free Shadow Army token onto your field. And again, you can sidestep that cost if you put it into your Order Zone from drop off of Regis' skill as well. So just useful in generating those tokens onto your field. So that's all of our grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Noid Thumbarino. So her auto ability, when this unit boosts a Shadow Army token, you may have this unit get power plus 15,000 until end of turn. And if you do, at the end of that battle, you have to retire all of your rearguards in the same column as this unit and draw a card. So if you put her behind a Shadow Army token, that does make a row of at least 38k on its own, which is a very good number to hit. And then she also helps you cycle through your deck by just retiring herself and the Shadow Army token in order to draw a card. Which that also opens up your front row rearguard circle, which usually you'd be calling over top of that Shadow Army token anyway, so you don't really end up losing anything in that regard. So just again a helpful card in terms of both offense and card advantage. Next up, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Principal Kagula. So its auto ability: when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your world is Dark Knight, you may soul charge 1, and if it is Abyssal Dark Knight instead, you may soul charge 2. Then it also has its auto ability that says if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire this unit, and call a Shadow Army token to rearguard circle. So we do have quite a bit of Soul Blasting costs in this deck, especially with Overcoming an Eternity being Soul Blast 2 if you play it from your hand. So getting that extra soul charge can be helpful in maintaining your resources. And then again, you can just use its second ability to replace itself with a Shadow Army token onto your board to combo with Thumblerino or what have you. Or to just be a stronger unit on board, since the token will have 15k power as opposed to its 8k. So again, very useful card. So our only other grade 1s are of course our Sentinels. So we have 3 copies of Violate Dragon, just your standard perfect card. And then of course 1 copy of our Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we do just have our trigger lineup, which I am just running rainbow triggers in this deck. So we have 4 crit, 3 front, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Draco Barbazonde, which is just your vanilla crit. You can run the effect one if you want to, but it's not really necessary. Next up, for the fronts, we have 3 copies of Cardinal Draco Pyro. So it's the front with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's greater or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So 20k shield front trigger. Next, for the draws, we have 4 copies of Ameliorate Connector. So again, draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's greater or greater, shield plus 5,000. So 10k shield, draw trigger. And then lastly, for the heals, we have 4 copies of Cardinal Prima Nabilim, which is just the vanilla heal. Again, if you want to run any of the effect ones, you can. And then lastly, our overtrigger is, of course, Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude, Eldo Breath. So his additional effect lets you double the power and critical of all of your front row units until end of turn. So, as always, absolutely massively powerful skill with this overtrigger, giving all your front row units ridiculous numbers and a minimum of 2 crit as well. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our fights, and we will face Shinobu. And we will be going second. Alright, so we will discard Tech 10 to ride Routus. So we'll use Tech 10 skill first to check the top 5 for a World Order. And we find 2. So let's see, we have those 2 in our hands. So we'll go ahead and add Eclipse Moonlight to our hand. So then we can use Fovi's skill to draw. And then Routus' skill to search our deck for another World Order. So we'll add Overcoming an Eternity. And I think that's all for now, so we'll just go ahead and attack. Which Nuvarea is the only one they localized as Cardinal Dragon instead of Cardinal Draco. And it kind of triggers my tism, but whatever. So we're gonna let that through. We'll get a crit trigger that is wasted, unfortunately. Alright, so let's discard one of these Overcoming in Eternities. So ride Cubicea. And then we'll call Thumbarino. And then we can play a World Order, so we'll play Hallowing Moonlit Night. Soul Blast one. And our world becomes Dark Knight. Then we get to draw off of the World Order skill. And then Cubicea will let us power up one of our units, so we'll give that power to Thumbarino. And I think we are good, so we'll attack with the Vanguard first. And we get a draw trigger, nice. So we'll give that power to Thumbarino as well. And he gets a heal trigger, which he does get. But now we can attack with Thumbarino. And let's that through too. And he gets a draw trigger. And let's see, we'll guard this one. And then we'll let that one through. Oh, and he pulls his over trigger. Alright, well that's gonna be 2 crit. That will persist until the end of the game. We'll get a heal trigger, which we don't get actually. And that power's not gonna help against 100 million, so. And we get a crit that is also wasted, unfortunately. So now he can suck his rear guards into a soul and re-stand Greedon. So we need to block this, and fortunately we do have a perfect guard. So we will drop this order. And he got another crit. That's a good thing we blocked that. Oh, and another crit on top of that. Wow. Yeah, if that had hit, we'd definitely be dead. Alright, so now we can discard And we'll drop Eclipsed Moonlight to ride Orfist Regis and use his ability to put a world from our drop into Order Zone. So we'll put Overcoming an Eternity, which makes our world Abyssal Dark Knight. So then we can go ahead and call Nuvarea over here. And then we'll move Thumberino back and we'll play Eclipsed Moonlight from our hand. So we'll Counterblast and call a Shadow Army token and put it in front of Thumberino, which will trigger Overcoming an Eternity to give him an extra 5k. And then we'll go ahead and put Kojamid behind our Vanguard. And I think we are good. So we will attack with our Shadow Army token first, boosted by Thumberino. And use Thumberino's skill to gain extra 15,000 power. So then Thumberino's skill will retire that column and let us draw. Which we got a perfect guard. That's good, we'll need that next turn. So then we'll attack with Nuvarea and use his skill to power up by 6k since we got 3 orders. So then we can attack with our Vanguard. And use Orfist Regis' skill to Counterblast and discard. So we'll have to drop that order. And we can call one Shadow Army token, so we want to call that over top of Nuvarea. Orfist gains 5. Then Nuvarea's skill lets us call another Shadow Army token. And of course our set order will power them both up by 5k. Alright, so now we can attack with our left token. And he guards. And attack with our right token. And he guards again. Alright, we got one perfect guard, so let's see if we can survive this. He didn't get his Persona ride, so he won't get Greedon skill to go to 7 damage. Alright, let's see. We will guard this one with the draw trigger. And I think I'm going to take the risk and let this through. As long as he doesn't get a crit, we should be fine. Gets a heal trigger, which he does get. Alright, no crit. So this will put us to 5, but we will survive this turn. And we get a draw trigger. Oh, we drew another perfect guard. Nice. So he's going to get triple drive off of that, but it doesn't matter because we are going to perfect guard. And we'll drop that crit, I guess. And there's the crit, but it doesn't matter this time. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride. Which will let us draw and use Regis's skill to put a world from our drop into order zone. So we're going to put Overcoming an Eternity. And we drew our last perfect guard. Alright, so let's move one of these tokens back and call Nuvarea. And we'll go ahead and call that other Kojamid too, actually. And then we can go ahead and attack. So we're going to attack with Nuvarea first.
Vanguard
and use his skill to gain 8k this time. And then we can attack with our Shadow Army token. He gets a crit trigger. So then we can attack with Orfist Regis. And use his skill to counter blast and discard. And this time we can call 2 Shadow Army tokens since we have 4 World Orders. So again, we want to call 1 over top of Nuvarea and then 1 to our other front row circle. Which gives Orfist plus 10. And we'll resolve Nuvarea's skill to call another token, and we'll put it in our back row over top of our old token, which triggers Overcoming an Eternity 6 fucking times. So we'll have to resolve all these skills to power up our tokens by 10k each. And he guards for 2 to pass, actually. Which is going to work. Yeah, we got no triggers. Alright, so we'll attack with our right token. Any guards. And then we attack with our Shadow Army token, boosted by our Shadow Army token for 60,000. Oh, and he's gotta let it through. And that crit will not save him, so we got him with that one. Alright, so there you go. That was our Orfist Regis deck. This is a very fun deck. I do actually like it quite a bit. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.